Hello, hello, everyone. I am live today. All right. Welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. Another Monday, I will be doing my hashtag 100 days of bits and pieces, where I'm doing my 100-day project on 4x4 watercolor paper squares, and I'm using bits and pieces of collage scraps that I have, including my magazines. And I know a lot of you have tons of magazines, tons of paper scraps that you don't want to throw away. So why not let's make some beautiful collages with them. And I chose something for the 100-day project that I thought was bite-sized, that I was able to do every day a little bit. Sometimes I would do more in a day because I'm all fired up. But, even if I didn't have time, I would be able to put in a little bit of creativity and get something down. And collage is something that really fires me up. And, the more and more I ask a lot of people, they tell me the same thing too. And I honestly believe it has something to do with this innate childlike wonder we have, because I believe that many of us, the first form of art making, creation, was cutting and pasting. In primary school, at home, you cut and you stick and you glue and you paste and you do collages. And it was fun. And at that age, anything goes. And you thought it was wonderful. So I think it brings that back, that sense of play. And so I always love that. And collage is a big thing in my artwork now. It has infiltrated into my paintings. Before, it was just like on the side, something I just did for fun, nobody saw. And now I'm incorporated into my paintings. I even had solo exhibitions of just collage work alone. So they make my heart sing. So that's what we're going to do today. And if you have your 100-day project, if you're doing a 100-day project, let me know what you're doing. If not, you're just playing along with me using your collage, that is fine. Also, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know where you're from. Where are you watching this from? In the US, outside of the US, in the Caribbean, where I'm originally from, but I'm in Massachusetts here. And let me know where you're watching from, and if you are doing the 100-day project or not, that's fine, but let me know. So I'm gonna dive right into it. I like to say this is my lunchtime artist at lunch. So thank you for joining me, and let's begin. So I'm gonna turn my camera over and start talking. But I'm assuming everybody's hearing me, so I'm not going to waste as much time as I did last week asking that. But feel free to please let me know your thoughts and as we go along. Okay, so let me turn my camera. Okay, here's my desk. Okay, so this is what I've been doing so far. These are the ones I've been doing. And they are just lighting me up because I'm not taking myself seriously. I'm just going in with the stash that I have. If you were here last week, I talked about my collages using fashion models from magazines. I just always loved fashion. When I was a kid, I had lots of dolls, I had paper dolls, all of these things, and I loved cutting these out, and I still do today. So I have all these fashion magazines. I cut these images out, and I'm going to use them as my focal point. Focal point is what the eye goes to right away. So they are my focal point. So these are like my little goddesses, and I love pattern. I love repeated pattern. So a lot of these you're going to see repeated pattern. In these other magazines, I love flowers as well. We're coming up to spring over here. So I cut out all of my flowers. So this just makes it easy for me when I'm cutting out the elements that I need. So when I'm choosing, I don't have to be wasting time flipping through magazines, etc. When I teach these, I teach collages to you know, I teach adults, teens, kids, but especially the kids and teens, and I guess adults too, but mainly kids and teens. When we have magazines, they would waste like half an hour looking through the magazines because it's so seductive. You know, you're seeing so many ads, you're seeing colors, you're seeing fashion, all sorts of stuff. So I always like, you know, and I get like that too. Next thing I'm reading an article in the magazine. So I just like to go and cut out my pieces so I have. Now, here are my backgrounds. And if you ever did a class with me or you ever did any kind of lives with me, I always talk about starting with a background, okay? From background to foreground. It builds the piece, it layers everything in, it creates a foundation. What also it does is that it quiets that blank stark background. Okay, so you look, whether it's small like this or it's large or it's a journal, you are going to feel a little intimidated, like, what should I do? You know, so for me, I like to put down a background or even just a ground, a color. You know, I might paint this one color or different colors. I will take, so since I'm using collage, I have all of these here, painted book paper. I love book paper. Last week, we did this one. So in my live last week, I did this one. And as you can see, I used book paper and I built the layer. So the book paper was the background. Then I put on my focal point and her headpiece. And then I added on these polka dots, which are punched from hole punch, right? So this was my background. So let's look at a couple backgrounds. Look at this one. This one is from scrapbook paper. So this is a background from scrapbook paper. This is a background where I used writing script. So I sometimes use it from my journals. This one I think I just did by hand as an element. And then I put in those lines after. But it was a whole, I just wrote in the back. This one, same thing, writing in the back. So I covered up that background. This one was actually from one of my gratitude journals, writing in the back. Brown paper. And I used that as a background. Okay. This one, I left the background as white. Okay. So let's start. Let's begin. I love these and I am so happy to start doing this. Okay. So I'm going to use a background and let me see. I want to use, I had in mind, oh, look at this. So I have these painted backgrounds on my book. I painted some of my papers, my journaling papers. And then these, I love this. Look at this. This is bubble wrap. So making a print out of bubble wrap. Look at that. So the background was pink and you put the bubble wrap into blue paint and you put it in and it stamps and it gives a beautiful effect. This is a larger bubble wrap. This is a smaller one. So I think it gives a lovely pop. A lot of these are bright, bright colors. Right now I'm all into the bright colors. And then as the 100-day project goes along, you would see how my colors will start to shift depending. Like I did this black and white one and I enjoyed it. And I think I'll do a series of those. But I went right back into color because I'm just loving the color right now. So I get one of my models. I think I'm going to use one of these and let's see what I'm going to do. I'm not too sure yet, but I know I like this background. So I'm going to do that. It's kind of short, so I might snip that. So the first thing you want to do is find your background. What background are you going to use? Some book paper, this is origami paper. Think of any kind of background you want. Maybe you might paint it. But for me, I'm just doing all collages. I don't want to mess with the paint at all right now. I don't want to mess up my area. I'm just gluing, cutting, sticking, gluing today. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to do the background and then we see where it leads us. So you're going to do the background, You get your focal point. Now I'm using our fashion models as my focal point. So the figure is my focal point. You can use anything else as your focal point. Your focal point is something where the eye leads to right away. Usually because it might be the largest thing, or maybe it is the boldest or brightest, right? But it catches the viewer's eye right away. And then the viewer's eye will then move throughout the piece. I'm just covering that up there. Strips. All right. Okay. All right, I'm loving how this is looking. So usually when we have a focal point, I don't usually like to put it right in the center. I like to have it at an angle of some sort, so I'm going to do that. How this is looking. So usually when we have a focal point, I don't usually like to put it right in the... Have a delay. All right. Okay, so I moved my focal point. I never put anything right in the center. It's going to be asymmetrical. And so as you can see, yeah, I love how this background is. So the background is my bubble wrap. So these are pieces of paper that I had before. So you might have papers that you painted, you might have scrapbook paper, whatever you would like to use. But this one was one, and I had the bubble wrap stamped on top of it. Again, this is another one with bubble wrap. I think I might use that in there. Okay, so now I've been doing a lot of them with headpieces, with floral headpieces. So I'm gonna go in with my florals. And as the 100-day project keeps going and going, I will change it up. Maybe I may make the floral out of something else, but I'm using actual cut out flowers as the actual headpiece. But I think as time goes on, after you do something over and over, then you're switching it up, you're expressing more things, and I might make the headpiece out of something different. So now I'm just seeing. Now I spoke about this last week where, because we're using these fashion images, we're seeing the full features of everyone, but we want to make it our own. We want to make it part of the composition. And so many times I will just hide maybe the eyes. Maybe I do show the eyes if it's showing a certain expression I want, but I'm turning it into something new. I'm taking something that was already done and I'm creating something entirely new. So now this image becomes somebody else, something else. So I'm moving it around, seeing what's the best way I can do that. I kind of like that. Some of them I keep the eyes. Some of them, like this one, no, none of the eyes. This one, I thought it was so powerful. So I left one of these, the eyes peeking through. So I do that for some of them. Some I don't. Some I might put paint and just do it like a dry brush throughout. So it's all about what I want to achieve, what the expression is, but it still is allowing me to make it my own. Look at that, to make it my own. Okay. Okay, so is everybody hearing me? Is everyone seeing what I'm doing? Any questions? Any comments? Anything so far? I'm just really having fun with this and going with that flow. All right, where did I say I wanted this? There's so many ways. I kind of like that with the side there. Oh, I like that. very asymmetrical. Now, I've been doing a lot of these where it's hanging off, very dramatic. I might cut it down. I did the same thing with the one I did last week. Look at that, hanging off of the edge of what we're working. It makes it larger than life. I love the purples going on. This is interesting that I'm doing purple and oranges because they are not my favorite. You know, purples are not very easy to work with as well as oranges, especially in painting. But with collages, I think I can have a little more, but they are opposite on the color wheel, even though these oranges are like a little more fluorescent with the yellow, but they go very nicely together because purple and orange, purple and yellow actually are opposite. Oh, okay. All right. Everybody's hearing me. I think my internet went out just shortly. Okay. So what happens is, yeah, my internet went out. So please let me know again if you're hearing me and if you're seeing everything. I feel like I'm seeing my hands moving again. It had frozen. All right. So yes. So now what I'm going to do, so I have my focal point. So I have my background, first background. Focal point is my model, my image, my figure. And then I add on this headpiece, right? So right there, ready, it feels finished. I just like to add different things in. I love, this is also bubble wrap, the small bubble wrap. And I'm wondering if I just add just a little bit. I'm very additive. So even when I'm finished this with you, I'm probably just going to go in with my paint pens and start, adding stuff in there. Okay, so I decided I'm going to cover up that part of her dress with these. And I'm just going to piece. I love doing collage like this as well. I'm known for doing this in my paintings, in my mixed media paintings, where I tear pieces off and you're piecing it together. And sometimes I would grade from dark to light. So I always call it like painting with paper. So I would do a whole scene with just ripped paper. And sometimes you can't even tell that it's collage because you're going with value, going with darks and lights. So wherever there's like shadowed areas, etc. So I'm going to leave this dark part and then go with that lighter. Yeah. So I'm liking how that is coming out already. I thought that was cool. I don't have any more of that background. I loved it. I wanted to fill under the arm. I'm going to leave it. Yeah. So at that point, look at how quickly I made this. Right? So, and it's all about composition, composing the elements. One, your background, whatever background you have, whatever you want to colors that you're feeling, you're piecing them together. As I said, you have your backgrounds, you have your florals, you have your images. Choose a background, choose an image. What image you think goes well with your background, right? Then choose some floral elements. What floral elements look good? I use the floral elements in the outfit or in the headpiece, mainly in the headpiece, and see what kind of energy you want from these. And then compose in terms of what's the negative space around it. Also, another important thing that I always talk about is contrast. So I'm not going to put a background that's very, very close to my focal point and my headpiece. So, or, it's like they're melding together. I don't know where it begins, where it ends, because you need contrast to, draw people's eyes, to keep people's attention. And so that's why the contrast really helps. And for me, you don't have to go so extreme with your contrast. But I've noticed with the ones I've been doing, I'm really drawn to these pops of color, pops of contrast. And so that's what I'm going with for now. I'll probably go into some monochromatics, variations of one color. And even when you're doing variations of one color, guess what? You still have to think about value, light against dark. So if I was doing all purples, I would be pushing light and dark together, pushing it forward, pushing it back. Okay, so that's mine. And then let's clear this part out. You can leave it like that, or you can decide, well, maybe I want to go in with some paint pens, and everybody knows I love me a paint pen. And I can go in with my paint pens and really start to pull out certain things or just to embellish. I love dots, I love lines, I love to continue. So I have some of these white areas here. Maybe I will go in, because how I see it is that if I'm using like magazine paper, magazine images, so I use magazine paper for the color alone, and I paint with paper, meaning I'm using reds, you know, a page full of reds, a page full of oranges, a page full of blues. But if I'm using an actual image in the magazine or book, I always like to alter it in some way. I want to make it mine. So this is kind of like what I'm doing right here with this flower. Just putting in a little bit of these lines, enhancing the white that's already there, exaggerating some of those petals and leaves, creating this movement where they're all kind of converging to the middle. Something that becomes, you know, it starts to become its own thing. And it's not just clearly, oh, that's just a cutout from a magazine. It'll be okay, it might be a cutout from a magazine, but it has all these different elements as well. You then make it yours. I might keep things, I might change it, I might exaggerate things. You know, be decorative. I love being decorative. And so these just call to be decorative. It's like, please decorate me. Continue, you know. Oh, that's a lovely color in the paint pen. And so, you know, and these are things. So I will put down the basics. I have my background, I have my foreground, I have the head. I piece where everything is. I look and see that my composition works nicely, that I have negative space. And sometimes people don't think about negative space. Negative space is so important because it helps you move your eye throughout the composition, right? Many times we're just thinking of the positive, but it's a negative space that helps the piece. So you need to have just enough. And an asymmetrical composition works so nicely, right? She's not smack in the middle, symmetrical. She's at a side, one side more than the other. There's negative space, but there's stuff going on in the negative space because of the repeated patterns. So things like this. So I'm just going to continue. I might continue doing dots. I might put some dots up here or lines, whatever it is you want to do to decorative. These are very decorative pieces. As you can see, I love my dots. I love my lines. Look at this background. This was just leftover piece of paper where I was paint scraping. So when you put paint down and you take something with an edge, like a ruler or a palette knife, and you just spread it. So the paint in the back was paint scrape, and then I put my focal point, my model, and my flowers. Okay. So all of these make me so happy. So this is where I am in my 100-day project so far. I'm just bringing you along for the ride. I hope you enjoyed it. This is our piece for today, and I'm going to continue playing with it. I'm so happy that you joined me. Please, I'm going to put some information below. So please tag me if you're going to do any of this, or send me an email. I would love to see what you do if you're doing this, if you're doing the 100-day project, and come along with me again. I'm going to be here every Monday. Every Monday, I'm going to be doing one of these little minis and talking about how I compose it, why I do what I do, and how I make it my own. So I hope you enjoyed this little live. I was just popping on for Mondays. I like to call it my artist at lunch. Thank you for joining me in your lunch hour, and we will see each other next week, Monday. Thank you very much for being here. Bye.